appointed for the purpose under Order 53, Order of Business, any member may, with the pre-approval of Mr. Speaker, move a motion on a specific matter of urgent public importance. Mr. Speaker, yesterday, as is reported by the Rules and Procedures, which has just been adopted by you, I'm begging to move, with your indulgence, that the decision which was taken yesterday in adopting purportedly a budget statement subject to concessions in that statement was unconstitutional, in betrayal of our rules and standing orders, and in betrayal of the 1992 Constitution. Mr. Speaker, particularly so that you in the chair added yourself to the number of members who made a quorum. May I, with respect, Mr. Speaker, refer you to Order 48 of our standing orders. Order 48 of our standing orders. So, Mr. Speaker, I'm moving a motion for rescission. That decision is illegal. That decision is unconstitutional. Just as 137 cannot take a decision, the same 137 cannot take a decision. Hold on.
Yes, Honorable Majority Leader.
Is coming under Order 51, which reads, at the time appointed for the purpose under Order 53, as Order of Business, any member may, with the prior approval of Mr. Speaker, move a motion on a specific matter of urgent public importance. Mr. Speaker, my colleague, in reading that order, conveniently omitted the prior approval of Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, he read the order under which he is coming and omitted that phrase. Mr. Speaker, I'm raising a preliminary issue, and that has to do with whether or not he has sought your prior approval. Mr. Speaker, that is what I want to know.
From the comfort of my offices, invoke the same standing orders. You are what? You invoke the same standing orders. I'm doing the same. Mr. Speaker,
Take your notes, Max.
you cannot be heard. Mr. Speaker, let me refer you to Order 48.1, which reads, the presence of at least 1/3 of all the members of Parliament besides the person presiding shall be necessary to constitute a quorum for the House. So, Mr. Speaker, even adding yourself to the quorum yesterday itself is in betrayal of our standing Order 48.1. I believe that there was any written statement seeking to use Order 51 by the Majority Leader. Mr. Speaker, let me also, with respect, refer you to our standing Order 109. Mr. Speaker, standing Order 109 reads, and I'm interested, Mr. Speaker, in 109.2. You were presiding, and therefore, by the provisions of Standing Order 30, you assume the role and responsibility of the Speaker of Parliament of Ghana. And it reads, Mr. Speaker shall have neither an original nor a custom vote, and if upon any question before the House, the votes are equally divided, the motion shall be lost. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, as I have seen in the other paper, we are told on Friday 137 could not take a decision, and therefore last one with you in the chair was 137.
Therefore, Mr. Speaker, whatever decision was taken to quote you is null and void because the votes and proceedings report that the decision, let me refer you to the page. Let me refer you to the page, Mr. Speaker. If you come to page 12, I hear quorum 137. Then when question was put, Mr. Speaker, I don't see any other number. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, I'm stating strongly that you have no original nor custom votes. But I recognize that you are a member of parliament. Therefore, you could not. And therefore, you are calling for the vote of Therefore, Mr. Speaker, I'm calling for a rescission. You will see voting today. That decision of yesterday. Mr. Speaker, let me refer you additionally to Article 104 of the 1992 Constitution, which provides, Mr. Speaker, in 104(2), the Speaker shall have neither an original nor custom vote. Therefore, for you to have courageously refer to yourself as adding to the numbers is repugnant to the provisions of the 1992 Constitution, in particular Article 104(2), and a serious breach and violation of Standing Order 109 of the Standing Orders of the Parliament of Ghana, and a serious breach of Order 48 of the Standing Orders of Parliament. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, I'm calling for a rescission of that decision. Mr. Speaker, what is even more worrying was to hear the majority leader and Minister for Finance all use the words when he was moving the motion, that the motion is adopt the budget subject to concessions. Which concessions? Concessions in your head or concessions in the head of the finance minister? This is a house of record. Even if there are concessions, the concessions must be laid and made a necessary part of the budget statement. And made a necessary part of the budget statement, because those concessions will amend aspects of the budget and economic policy of government, not in the imagination or in the thinking of a minister for finance. Therefore, to accept a motion subject to concessions which is not known to this august house in the exercise of our important mandate of oversight, our important mandate over scrutiny of the public purse, Mr. Speaker, I can only ask for a rescission. Mr. Speaker, the other day, our colleague this side, they chose to walk out, even though yesterday you tried to help them understand when you added yourself to quorum. Then it means we could have added them to the quorum of the day they walked out, Mr. Speaker, because they were in the chamber. By extension, they were in the chamber and they are present. It is only when, Mr. Speaker, they were wanting to avoid humiliating defeat. And let me refer you to it, Mr. Speaker. Again, Article 104(3) of the Constitution. And Mr. Speaker, I read. Where the votes on a motion are equal, it shall be taken to be a loss. Mr. Speaker, the votes and proceedings of yesterday reported 274 members, 137 intact,
So whether you took part, you didn't take part, you only could be 137. You only. Because one of your members, Sarah Adwoa-Sarfo, was absent. Not yesterday. On Friday. Mr. Speaker, so we are calling for a rescission. We are calling for a rescission. So I beg to move, Mr. Speaker, that the decision of the House yesterday purporting to adopt a budget statement subject to concessions not known to this August House be declared a nullity and unconstitutional. I will rely on the same standing order 51 and 2. And Mr. Speaker, I beg to move that this August House could not proceed in adopting a motion in the matter of budget statement and oversight with unaccompanied and unknown concessions only known in the imagination and thinking of a Minister of Finance. He does not walk to this house on his own authority. He does under Article 179 of the 1992 Constitution. In that hairstyle. But Mr. Speaker, I was referring to the votes and proceedings of Friday, 27 November 2021, when I said that the votes reported, and accurately and rightly so, the votes and proceedings of Friday, 27 November 2021, reported that the Honorable Sarah Adwoa-Sarfo was absent with permission. And therefore, I'm saying that if 137 took a decision which was declared a nullity, and the same 137 yesterday took a decision, it's only appropriate. We do not recognize that the presiding officer of the Speaker has an original or a casting vote, and therefore you could not be more than 137. I say some move. So I beg to move that the motion that was adopted be rescinded and the Minister of Finance be authorized to lay before this House any concessions he is keeping in his hand. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I, the Honorable Minority Leader, is right to move a motion. All that I'm seeking to know from the chair, because he is quoting from Order 51. The Speaker, and in quoting the order, he did not quote the full complement of the order, which is what I did. And I'm asking whether the minority leader sought the prior approval of the chair, of the Speaker. I did. You were not here. I did before coming to the House. So I want to know from the chair whether you have done that. That's my simple request to the chair. Mr. Speaker, so I'm awaiting your directive on this before the motion gets seconded.
Honourable members, on the 53, on the 50.
Not in the chamber. But we observed the proceedings on television. Mr. Speaker, we listened to the majority group leader move the motion. And he moved the motion pursuant to Order 51. But Mr. Speaker, Order 51, as you are saying, is controlled by Order 52. Mr. Speaker, assuming without admitting that is indeed the position. We did not hear you, Mr. Speaker, say that prior to coming to this chamber, he had consulted you in a written statement. We did not hear you. We did not hear you put before this House evidence of the written statement. Why is it that suddenly today, when we seek to also move Petron to the same order, the issue of a written statement has become an obstacle? If yesterday a written statement was not necessary and it was not displayed in this House, and you did not make reference to it in this House, how come that today a written statement has suddenly become so important? Mr. Speaker, if there was a written statement, I urge Mr. Speaker to display the written statement before us today. Here and now, Mr. Speaker, there was no written statement. Let's go to the same order. I therefore second the motion moved by the minority leader. Let's one to the order that we use to move the motion. Mr. Speaker, the issues before this House.
And we're having considered the issue. I'm taking notes of the point the leader said.
And the rule is clear, 51, that it is with the prior approval of the Speaker. Which Speaker? 51, prior approval. Mr. Speaker, the matter was raised yesterday subject to your prior approval. We have raised the issue today, and there is no prior approval, and therefore it is not a post-submission approval. So they are completely out of order. Mr. Speaker, for a member of Parliament to tell the Speaker to place on the table what has come to him, it is an unacceptable position. Our friends on the other side had the right to raise it yesterday. They did not come because they knew they were losing. Mr. Speaker, let us not confuse the public. The rule says that 138 MPs should be present. It didn't say 100% of them should approve. It said majority should approve. Mr. Speaker, the definition of who is an MP in this House is determined by law. You sitting there, you are the MP of the choir, not subject to the wits and caprices of the minority. So we were 138 clothed with a jurisdiction to be determined by a majority, not necessarily 138. On their time, they didn't have it. Period. Mr. Speaker, this country can do without all this case. Let us fix them. They are out of order. Period. And we move forward.
Told me anything of his intention to apply under Order 50 for any such application. So no prior approval has been obtained. The application, therefore, is not properly before me. I am
Beyond that, the minority leader went on and made his submission in support of the motion that he has filed or wants to make. The Speaker, if you permit me, because the first one was just a plenary issue, I can appropriately respond to the issues that he has raised. Mr. Speaker, that is, if you accept the motion, then I can respond to it and you make a ruling. Because as far as I'm concerned, it is, I'm not wrong.
Well,
Our request to move a motion pursuant to Order 50, one for rescission that was made yesterday. We are now moving that which happened yesterday should also be set aside on the grounds that the issues that it permitted, Mr. Speaker, are issues that could not have taken place because, like the minority leader has argued, there was no quorum in this house to transact business. Mr. Speaker, the issues of quorum to take decision, is clearly spelled out in the Constitution and the standing orders. The Constitution is very clear, Mr. Speaker, that first 102, a quorum of Parliament apart from the person presiding. A quorum of Parliament apart from the person presiding shall be 1/3 of all the members of Parliament. 1/3 of all the members of Parliament. Mr. Speaker, I emphasize the word apart from the person presiding to begin an argument about a chain of arrangement that intends that when we are discussing the question of quorum, we should always leave the person presiding. That anytime we are discussing quorum, we should always leave out the person presiding. That is the argument. Whether it is a quorum to transact business or a quorum to take decision, always leave out the person presiding. This provision has been repeated in Order 48 of our standing orders, which says the presence of at least 1/3 of all the members of Parliament besides the person presiding shall be necessary to constitute a quorum of the House. Mr. Speaker, it is clear that all the time we should take away the person presiding, regardless of whether he is the substantive speaker, the first deputy speaker, or even the second deputy speaker. But yesterday, Mr. Speaker, you were presiding, and even though we were not in the chamber, we heard you counting yourself among the people who should be counted to constitute quorum for taking a decision in this house. That is why we say that what happened yesterday was irregular and cannot stand, because you were presiding and you counted yourself, when the intention of the Constitution is that any time that we are discussing quorum, we should put aside the person presiding when counted. Mr. Speaker, let me further buttress the arguments that we are making, that when you are presiding as a deputy speaker, first deputy or second deputy speaker, I've heard argument, oh, but the person is a member of Parliament. At the time when you assume the seat, you are no longer ordinarily a member of Parliament.
We don't know that.
You are no longer ordinarily a member of Parliament.
And we don't know the concession.
Mr. Speaker, that is the reason why when you assume the seat, we are all compelled to now have reverence for you as the Speaker, to follow your directives. You powers of a speaker. So how can you be sitting there as the speaker and still maintain your status as an ordinary member of parliament? That is an absurdity. That is something that ordinarily I don't understand, and I appreciate when the ordinary person in the street doesn't understand. And I'm not surprised that on radio this morning, the public was asking, was there a decision or was there no decision? Because they also agree that when you are sitting there, you cannot count yourself as an ordinary member of parliament. So, Mr. Speaker, clearly, what happened yesterday was an illegality. If the position is the one happened today on Friday was an illegality.
Honorable member, hold on. Yes, Honorable Minister.
A quorum of parliament, apart from the person presiding, shall be 1/3 of all the members of parliament. It also uses the word all the members of parliament. The argument of the majority group is that 104 also deals with quorum for taking decisions. And it also says, except as otherwise provided in this constitution, matters in parliament shall be determined by the votes of the majority of members present and voting, with at least half of all the members of parliament present. So the constitution uses all the members of parliament in 102 and also uses all the members of parliament in 104 and has exempted that the speaker, the person presiding, should not be calculated to be part of all the members of parliament.
Look at the motion down.
Mr. Speaker, so it is obvious that this constitution does not mince words when it expresses its intention that anytime we are calculating quorum of all the members of parliament, we should always exempt the person presiding. So, Mr. Speaker, yesterday, based on this irregularity, a motion was moved and which was approved by yourself, that the House accordingly approved the budget statement and economic policy of the government for the year ending 31st December 2022, subject to the concessions outlined by the Honourable Minister responsible for finance in his concluding statement on the motion. There was no such motion before this House. There was no motion subject to concluding remarks. Which motion is called subject to concluding remarks? That we are not aware of any motion called motion subject to concluding remarks. Where are the concessions? And where are the concessions? What are they? How can you approve a motion making concessions that you don't know? All of you, 137 people, you didn't know the concessions and yet you went ahead and approved it.
What is it?
How about the concessions say that we MPs should no longer be paid salaries?
What is the concession?
What are the concessions? Tell us what the concessions are.
Effect of the concession.
If the concessions say that everybody should start paying 50% income tax, you didn't know and you went ahead and voted for a motion subject to concessions that you are not aware of. Mr. Speaker, on that note, Mr. Speaker, I second the motion by the minority leader to set aside all that happened yesterday as a total nullity. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. The Constitution on this matter is clear. Mr. Speaker, Article 102 and Article 104 are clearly distinguishable. Mr. Speaker, they are clearly distinguishable. And Mr. Speaker, for the avoidance of doubt, let me repeat Article 102 and Article 104. Article 102 reads, Mr. Speaker, a quorum of parliament, apart from the person presiding. Mr. Speaker, the emphasis is on the person presiding. That's the emphasis. Shall be 1/3 of all the members of parliament. Mr. Speaker, it is needless to point out
that this quorum, pursuant to Article 102, is quorum for conducting business. Mr. Speaker, in that respect, Mr. Speaker, in that respect, may I respectfully refer the House to the book written by the respected jurists K.B. Ayensu and S.N. Darko on an introduction to the law, practice and procedure of Parliament of Ghana. Mr. Speaker, that is clearly stated the distinguishing between the quorum for conducting business. So that is Article 102.
Honorable member, kindly hold on. Yes, leader.
Except as otherwise provided in this Constitution, matters in Parliament shall be determined by the vote of the majority of members present and voting, with at least half of all the members of Parliament present. Mr. Speaker, this is the distinction. The distinction is that whereas in Article 102, the framers of the Constitution deliberately mention the person presiding for purposes of quorum for conducting business. In Article 104, the framers of the Constitution deliberately omitted mentioning the person presiding for purposes of quorum. Mr. Speaker, with the greatest of respect, the first year student of a class of interpretation will be taught the canon or tool of interpretation, which states, and I quote, expresso unis es exclusio alterum. Mr. Speaker, to wait, quote, express mention of a thing implies the exclusion of all others, end quote. If the framers of the Constitution intended that the person presided ought to be excluded for the purposes of a quorum for taking a decision, they would have said so expressly. Mr. Speaker, that is the law. Mr. Speaker, may I also refer the House to Article 57 of the Constitution. Article 57(2) states, and I quote, the President shall take precedence over all other persons in Ghana, and in descending order, the Vice President, the Speaker of Parliament, and the Chief Justice shall take precedence over all other persons in Ghana, end quote. In this Article 57(2), the order is the President, the Vice President, the Speaker, and the Chief Justice. Mr. Speaker, when you go to Article 20 of the Constitution, where it talks about succession, the framers of the Constitution talks about the President. When the President is not there, the Vice President. When the Vice President is not there, the Speaker. The framers of the Constitution deliberately omitted the Chief Justice on the principle that I've enunciated, the expresso principle. You cannot include the Chief Justice in Article 60. That is on all fours with Article 102 and 104 when it comes to the person presiding. Mr. Speaker, that is the law. And further, Mr. Speaker, any careful examination of the 1992 National Constitution as a whole, any examination of the 1992 Constitution as a whole, Mr. Speaker, you will realize that the framers of the Constitution keep using Speaker, First Deputy Speaker, second deputy speaker, and the person presiding. They use them, they don't use them interchangeably, they use Mr. Speaker.
Hold on. Yes, what order are you referring to?
Oh, well, the minister in quoting 104. Mr. Speaker, the minister in quoting Article 104 of the Constitution said, except as otherwise provided in this Constitution. And the minister must be reminded that in his argument, he already made reference to Article 103.
Hold on there.
And 103 has already provided. Quorum. Fortunately, on the principle of stare decisis, the principle of precedent, this parliament has had an occasion. And Mr. Speaker, I have in my hand here the Hansard of this House dated Tuesday, 22nd December 2015, where this same matter came up for consideration. And Mr. Speaker, it is instructive to note that the current Speaker of Parliament, the Right Honourable Alban Babin, had something to say about this particular matter we are discussing in this chamber. Mr. Speaker, at exactly 3:20 p.m., when this matter came up for litigation, the Right Honourable Speaker, then Majority Leader, on 22nd December 2015, at exactly 3:20 p.m., had this to say. Mr. Speaker, it's very instructive. May I read it out to the House? And I quote, this is Mr. Babin speaking in the Hansard, and I quote, in the case of head count, Mr. Speaker shall take the vote of the House by calling upon members who support or oppose his decision successively to rise in their places. A member may vote in a division, even if he did not hear the question put. Mr. Speaker, it is important for this to be ironed out clearly. Uproar. Mr. Speaker, after you have taken the count, it is incumbent on Mr. Speaker to announce the results. After that, others can follow, but it's unprecedented to defer the results. Mr. Speaker, the results will have to be announced for us to know. Interruption. This is because I believe that we satisfy the constitutional provision as provided in Article 104, and I will want to read that Article 104 says, and he quotes, and he goes on. Mr. Speaker, we are 275 members. Half of that is 138. Mr. Speaker, I believe that we are more than 138. So we satisfy the constitutional provision. Mr. Speaker, even more instructively, Mr. Speaker, the Right Honourable Speaker at the time, Honourable Doe Ajawo, gave a ruling on that litigation. And Mr. Speaker, the ruling is captured in the Hansard of 22nd December 2015. And Mr. Speaker, with your permission, let me quote the ruling of Honourable Doe Ajawo, because it's so instructive, it settles this matter in many respects. And I quote, it says, Honourable members, you are aware that this House is not supreme. We are subject to the Constitution of the Republic of Ghana. The rule is that where the Constitution has made a provision for regulation of the business of the House, they take precedence over any other. And indeed, the standing orders of this House, there is quorum to do business, and that is 1/3 of the House. And there is quorum to take decision. So we need to draw a distinction between the quorum to do business and the quorum to take decision. Mr. Speaker, the quorum to take a decision is regulated by Article 1041. The fundamental question is that the time that the vote was taken, did we have at least half of the honourable members present? It is a constitutional issue which has to be captured in the standing order 1091 of our standing orders. If we go by the results of the head count, by adding 67 to 66, we will get 133. Therefore, there is a serious constitutional issue here. So, at At the time that the votes were taken, this House lacked the legal, in fact, the constitutional capacity to take a decision. So, I entirely endorse the position taken by the Honorable First Deputy Speaker that we do not have the number, constitutionally speaking, to take a decision. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, no decision has been taken. End quote. So, Mr. Speaker, the import of what the learned Right Honorable Speaker Doe Ajawo is making is exactly the point I'm making. That Article 102 and 104 are distinguishable. And so our friends from the other side, their reliance on Article 102 does not help their case, does not resolve the matter. If you want to find out whether or not the person presiding can be part of the quorum to take a decision, go to Article 104. Go to Article 104. It is black and white. It is established. And Mr. Speaker, in conclusion, there are replete of authorities from the Supreme Court to affirm the decision of distinction. And Mr. Speaker, there are so many of them that I can't give all of them to you. But permit me to cite one of the locus classicus when it comes to the canon or the tool of interpretation of distinguishing between one part of a document and another part of a document, where if a matter is expressly mentioned in one part of the document but not mentioned in the other, it means that it is excluded. Mr. Speaker, I refer to Kwajoga Adra versus National Democratic Congress, writ number JI/13/2014, Supreme Court, dated 15 July 2015. So, Mr. Speaker, let me conclude by urging upon you that what took place yesterday in this House was constitutional, was lawful, was legal, was appropriate, was in accord with the practice and conventions of this House, and indeed, as members of the choir, you are entitled to be counted for purposes of a quorum to take a decision. And we didn't need Mr. Speaker voting to take a decision. We needed half of the members present to take a decision. And that decision is valid and must stand. Mr. Speaker, that's what it is.
Yes, Honorable.
The defense that the Honorable Member for Damango has put up. I hear a number of arguments. And Mr. Speaker, my former student, Mr. Speaker, my former student, he invoked the expresso unios ex exclusio altarios dictum. And he then proceeded to my disappointment, to my utter dismay. He then proceeded to misapply the principle. The reason is very simple, Mr. Speaker. The principle of law is that in the construction of documents such as the Constitution, the National Constitution, the document must be read as a whole. You must interpret the document as a whole in order to be able to give effect to its letter and its spirit. Mr. Speaker, with respect to that particular issue, what the Honorable Member for Damango failed to do was to avert his mind to the fact that in Article 102 of the Constitution, or let me take him to Article 104. 104.1 provides that except as otherwise provided in this Constitution, and usually in the drafting of national constitutions, Mr. Speaker, because a constitution is not an advertiser's announcement, you cannot put everything in the clauses of the constitution. So as a matter of economy of drafting, you use expressions such as except as otherwise provided in this constitution so that you don't become repetitive. Mr. Speaker, Article 102 provides for quorum, just as Article 104. Now, Article 102 provides for the normal quorum for the conduct of ordinary business of this house. And it says, yes, that distinction was correct. But the effect to which it has in respect of Mr. Speaker's decision is what is wrong. All right? Mr. Speaker, when you read 102, it says that our quorum is 1/3. But when it comes to 104, that is decision time. And Mr. Speaker, because it says except as otherwise provided in this constitution, and because they deal with the same subject matter, we cannot read Article 104 in isolation from 102. And that is the reason why. The point which has been made by the honourable member for Boku Central must be taken seriously, because in providing for quorum, it says that apart from the person presiding, and Mr. Speaker, either the Speaker himself will preside, the first Deputy Speaker, the second Deputy Speaker, or in the absence of all three, a member. And that is why the Constitution provides, that does not say except apart from Mr. Speaker, it says apart from the member presiding. And so we must read apart from the member presiding into Article 104.1 for it to make sense. Because Article 104.1 is also a quorum provision, but it requires a higher threshold because it is a quorum provision dealing with decision. And Mr. Speaker, in this house, every decision is taken by a vote.
Even determining quorum.
Every decision is taken by a vote, and it is either a voice vote,
Or a head count.
or a head count, or a ballot, or a division. Either way, when we are taking decisions, we engage in the process of voting to determine the outcome. Mr. Speaker, in those circumstances, I want to submit, just as the honourable member for Boku Central has said, that a person who is disqualified from voting cannot be counted for purposes of determining the quorum for that vote. Mr. Speaker, this is a fundamental rule of meetings. And Mr. Speaker, yesterday I watched you on TV, and you announced to this house that you were being counted as a member of parliament for Bekwai. We recognize you as such. But when you are in that chair, you cease to be a member of parliament for Bekwai for purposes of the vote. When you are in this chair, and Mr. Speaker, the reason I'm saying this is that, Mr. Speaker, the Constitution provides expressly that you lose your original vote. That original vote is accorded to you because 1042, it is accorded to you in your capacity as the MP for Bekwai. If the Constitution takes away that original vote, the question is, how can you then, for satisfying the precondition for a decision, now be counted for purposes of the making of that decision?
Ridiculous.
And Mr. Speaker, part of the reason why Part of the reason why your original vote has been taken away in your capacity as Mr. Speaker is simply because in the wisdom of the makers of the Constitution, Mr. Speaker should not descend into the arena of conflict. Mr. Speaker should not be within the fray when decisions are being made. And that is why, Mr. Speaker, in accordance with Article 97, 1B of the Constitution, whenever a member of Parliament is elected Speaker of this House, that member of Parliament is made to step down and a by-election is held. We saw this happening. In the case of the Right Honorable Joe Ajaho, he had to step down. And the fundamental rationale is simple. It refers back to what I have said, that a speaker cannot be a referee and a player at the same time. That is the reason why, Mr. Speaker, I support the motion ably moved by the minority leader that we rescind the decision that was taken yesterday, because as the honourable member for Damongo said, if the decision taken on Friday was unconstitutional, if it was unlawful, if it was inappropriate, I will say that this is a gross undermining of the Constitution of the Republic of Ghana.
The member who just spoke, who said he taught the honourable member who the people say is going. I also taught him. I also taught him. And Mr. Speaker, I want to put on record that today he has made me very proud. One of the things that teachers should admire is when their students excel. In fact, the man, I don't hesitate to say that what he has done today, he has shown me that I taught him well. I don't know about you. Mr. Speaker, in principle, Mr. Speaker, some of my younger friends like Honorable Mutala, they are looking for posts. Some of us, where we are going, we are not looking for any post. Mr. Speaker, as was said, when you were shouting, Mr. Speaker,
Honourable members, order. Shall we listen to the honourable member for Kitan?
we joke with each other and so on. If mention of name is a worry to you, I apologize. I draw. But please, we are dealing with very serious constitutional issues, and I appreciate it if you keep quiet like how everybody kept quiet when the former deputy attorney general. Unless, of course, you are afraid to hear what I come to say because it's going to be issue. Mr. Speaker, I totally agree with Honorable Aine that the Constitution should be read. That the Constitution should be read as a whole. Mr. Speaker, if the Constitution, and there's no provision in the Constitution that is there for just being there sake. Mr. Speaker, if you read 102 and 104, you will see that the language is intentionally different. 102 says, and I know it has been read, but for the avoidance of doubt, let me read it again. Mr. Speaker, 102 says that a quorum for Parliament, apart from the president presiding, shall be 1/3 of all the members of Parliament. It is not. Mr. Speaker, 1/3 of the members of Parliament is less than 100. 1/3 of the members of Parliament is less than 100. So, Mr. Speaker, indeed, even taking you out on that day, there were more the 96 members or 100 members in parliament. So there was a quorum.
Yeah.
That cannot be debated because we are supported by Article 102. The question of quorum has arisen in this house time and time again. And perhaps it's time we look at it when we start looking at our news. Some have argued, I've heard an argument that quorum is when we sign it. So for example, I've heard an argument that the day before, 275 people signed it. So at every time, that quorum existed. I've heard an argument from somewhere. Mr. Speaker, the question of quorum is that, in my view, let him talk.
I haven't given him the floor. Kindly.
Mr. Speaker, let me vent. I'm so surprised because I have not even mentioned his name. As I have heard arguments. Mr. Speaker, the question in some parliaments, there are not even enough chairs for the members of parliament. So the question is that there's a presumption that there's a quorum unless it is raised. There's a presumption that there's a quorum unless it is raised. Mr. Speaker, but the Speaker at any time, having regard to the facts available to him, may see that there is no quorum and may so moto take a decision that there is no quorum. So for example, if the quorum to take a decision is 138 and there are only 137 people in the room, the Speaker must see that there are only 137 people and he must come to a conclusion that we don't have enough people to take a decision. Mr. Speaker, but as far as quorum is concerned, you are covered by Article 102. The next step is that now the meeting has started. The next step is that can we take a decision and who can take the decision? Can we take a decision and who can take the decision? Then we come comfortably to 104. And 104 does not talk about quorum. It says that 104.1, except as otherwise provided in this constitution, matters in parliament shall be determined by the votes of the majority of members present and voting, with at least half of the members of parliament present. So when you have a quorum of 1/3, when it comes to taking a decision, there must be at least half there. And the half that must be there, the majority must vote. Mr. Speaker, I don't even want to venture into the field of whether, as a deputy speaker, you had a vote or not, because you didn't vote. I don't want to venture into that room. What is known is that out of the people who were present, 137 voted, and the majority of people who were here voted for the nobody voted against it. The records are clear. Mr. Speaker, we should not try and make, because of this situation, we should not make the speaker equal to the deputy speaker. Honorable Babin, when he was second deputy speaker, when I was second deputy speaker, I remember once in the evening, I raised an issue, I gave a ruling. Mr. Speaker, you were there. Honorable Chairman was on the other side. Honorable Babin got up and said that the second deputy speaker is not a speaker. They are different. And I agree with him. Because when you look at our standing orders and when you look at our rules, Mr. Speaker, you are a first deputy speaker. You are not the speaker of parliament. Indeed, what was read yesterday was that the speaker was out of town. So for the purposes of his work in chamber, you step into his shoes. That was what was read yesterday. Our law is very clear, Mr. Speaker, as to your role. Our law is very clear as to what you can do. And Mr. Speaker, you did exactly what the Constitution allows you to do. Mr. Speaker, I agree that we are on some uncharted territory, but I want to remind all of us to be mindful of the provisions of our standing orders when we enter into said church. It says that except otherwise provided in these orders or the Constitution of the Republic of Ghana, these orders shall not restrict the mode in which Parliament exercises and upholds its powers, privileges, and immunities. So indeed, anybody who is arguing that what Mr. Speaker did was wrong must show us the provision of the Constitution which do not allow him to do what he did. Mr. Speaker, the second and last thing I'll say before I take my seat is I refer all of us to order 6. Mr. Speaker, and Order 6 says that in all cases not provided by these orders, Mr. Speaker shall make provisions as he deems fit. Mr. Speaker, what you did yesterday was constitutional. It was guided by the standing orders. Your ruling will stand the test of time. And indeed, Mr. Speaker, I urge you to start firm. I urge you not to change your mind, because what you did, Mr. Speaker, is grounded in the Constitution, is grounded in the standing orders, is grounded in the practice of Parliament, and is grounded on previous precedent. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Our students and professors. Now, Mr. Speaker, we are talking about our standing orders. Three things govern this house: the 1992 Constitution, the standing orders, and our practice. Nobody can take our practice, the precedents that we set in this house, aside and make it look as if all of a sudden it doesn't exist. It does exist. And Mr. Speaker, without repeating most of the arguments, if, Mr. Speaker, anybody is making reference to Article 102, I just want all of us to start reading from Order 100. What is the heading there in the 1992 Constitution? The heading there is Procedure in Parliament. So it's talking about the whole processes that happens in Parliament. That is why you cannot be picking and choosing which one suits your argument and ignoring the others. Because, Mr. Speaker, when Article 102 talks about a quorum of Parliament, and 104 repeats that except otherwise provided in this Constitution, you cannot separate the two. Because in counting to get to quorum, because if there were 91 people in the chamber, and Speaker or First Lady Speaker, for that matter, who has become Speaker, is presiding, will you say there's quorum or there will be no quorum? You say there will be no quorum, because you cannot count him and add, even though he still remains the member for the choir. Yes, you will not count him, because you will not have quorum. Why is it that when you count to 104, you want to add him? And listen to the text of 104. 104, Mr. Speaker, without permission, I read: except otherwise provided in this Constitution, matters in Parliament shall be determined by the vote of majority of members present and voting. It is joint. You have to be present and be able to vote. It is not separate. It is not present or who can vote. It says that present and voting, meaning that anybody who is present that has to be counted must be capable of voting. And Mr. Speaker, you know from our orders, from the first Constitution. Let me from the first Constitution first. Order Article 110. With your permission, I read. That talks about the powers of Parliament to be able to make, to develop the standing orders. Mr. Speaker, so if the Constitution itself says that we will develop a standing order that will help us to run this house, and I read, subject to the provisions of the Constitution, Parliament may by standing orders regulate its own procedure. And Mr. Speaker, you come to Order 48, it is explicitly repeated the wording of 102 that exempts you from being counted as part of quorum. When you go to 109 of our standing orders, it exempts you from voting. Mr. Speaker, with the greatest of respect, Mr. Speaker, you came to meet me in this house. In this house, I'm your senior. But I've never had a privilege of climbing these stairs and sitting on that seat. It is a privilege that we, as a house, have honored you. And the Constitution and the standing order says, anytime you have that honor, you should not vote. It is for a reason, to keep you neutral. And for that matter, when decisions are going to be made, you should not be part of that decision. Why is it that you want to be counted as as part of the number to be considered in taking decision.
When you are not taking the decision.
When you are not supposed to be part of the decision, but you want to be counted as the number that includes or that pave way for a decision to be taken. Mr. Speaker, I overheard my colleague Honorable Jogate. Unfortunately, he stepped out, and he knows the rules of the house. When you finish speaking, Eskime will tell you, you don't walk out when others are speaking. So it will be good Honorable Jogate to be back. Mr. Speaker, I refer Honorable Jogate to order 7 of our standing orders.
He
He said, I'll come to 6. He said, the first deputy speaker is not the speaker. But listen to our standing orders. Our standing orders in order 7. Mr. Speaker, with your permission, I read. Says the definition of speaker. Speaker or Mr. Speaker includes a person, a member presiding at a sitting. So that's why in our house, anytime any of them are there, we still refer to them as Mr. Speaker. So for you, as Honorable Jogate to say that he is not the speaker, he's only the first deputy speaker, our standing order says he is a speaker and he must be referred to as Mr. Speaker. Read the school. And therefore, he's clothed with all the privileges. Read the school. He's clothed with all the privileges of Mr. Speaker. But he cannot eat his cake and have it. Because he cannot take the privileges and clothe with the powers of Mr. Speaker. And yet doesn't want to shy away from the disadvantage of being Mr. Speaker. And for this instance, the worry for him is that he enjoys being called Mr. Speaker, but he wants to be part of the number to take a decision. He wants to be the referee, as one of my colleagues said, and player at the same time. Mr. Speaker, my colleague Honorable Jogate said, if the deputy speaker is not the speaker, can a deputy speaker overturn the decision of a speaker? Can a lower court override the decision of a higher court? Well, let me now take you to order 6, which he has quoted. Mr. Speaker, order 6. Mr. Speaker, sorry, I take objection to him using his left. He's pointing to me with his left. Oh, sorry. He started his left to me with the left. Speaker, now I'm referring to him with my left. I'm really very sorry.
Honorable members, order.
Mr. Speaker, you shouldn't also be speaking. If he is a senior in this house, and that is what you want to teach us, then we will be like Mr. Speaker, you brought up to get
Honorable Samuel George, and kindly resume your seat. Honorable member for resume your seat. Kindly resume your seat, please. Honorable leaders, I will not countenance.
The business about the motion that the minority leader has purportedly filed, which has no prior consent of the Speaker. Mr. Speaker, is to the effect that the decision that was taken yesterday was supported by 137 members in the House and therefore should be considered a nullity. Mr. Speaker, since Friday up to yesterday, the position of my colleagues on the other side was that nothing bad had happened when they purportedly took a decision binding the entire House, which was supported by 137. Mr. Speaker, the hands Hansard of that day, and you hear some spirited efforts to the effect that, apart from the 137, there was one MPP MP hiding somewhere in some corner. Today, you are saying that it's 274. The Speaker, the
Leader, hold on.
captures
Leader, kindly, I want to listen to him. Please, you must demonstrate that somebody has said something.
That somebody was seated or hiding there. As a matter of fact, the Right Honourable Speaker asked 4 members, the clerk.
No, member did not say somebody has said it here.
So what should he say them on the floor? What should he say them on the floor? These are
I'm not going to buy you out of order. Leader,
what should he say on the
effort. If the cap fits you, wear it. Mr. Speaker, I alluded to spirited efforts being made to the effect that there was one MPP MP who was hiding somewhere. Today, we are hearing that the number in the House that supported it was 274. Mr. Speaker, the Hansard captures that at the time of that decision, and they said the eyes, they recorded eyes nail, nose 137, abstention nail. That is the Hansard. Let nobody pretend. Mr. Speaker, that is what has been captured in the Hansard of the House. So, Mr. Speaker, nobody should attempt to throw dust into the eyes of the general public. Mr. Speaker, and then I hear one of our respected colleagues saying that the Speaker cannot be counted as one of us, much less to participate in the voting. Mr. Speaker, the Electoral Commissioner who supervises our elections is not barred by any law from voting, even though he declares the election. Because that was a position of the Honorable Dominic Ayine. That was the position of Honorable Dominic Ayine. And that's why I'm responding to him. But Mr. Speaker, we are dealing with the standing orders. Mr. Speaker, the minority leader is also attributing a statement to me that I said the motion should be approved subject to some concessions. Mr. Speaker, I never on this floor said the motion must be approved subject to concessions. I never. And that is for the record. So the minority leader should not attribute anything to me that I did not say. You were somewhere and you might have heard something different, but certainly on the floor of this house, I never said.
But let him be reminded that when I quoted Order 51, you rose and quoted 52. Mr. Speaker, let him complete the reading of 1091. Complete it for the record. And then, Mr. Complete it for the record, Mr. Speaker. Then you say, Speaker. Mr. Speaker includes a member presiding at a sitting. Don't set aside our standing orders. We are grossly misleading this house. So let him complete standing order 1091. Don't read it halfway. Read it in full for our purposes. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, making is that the Deputy Speaker who mounts the chair does not cease to be a member of this house. That's the point. That's point number one. Now, number two, 1092 says that the Speaker shall have neither an original nor a casting vote. Right? The Speaker, that's appreciated. That is commonplace. And that is why the Speaker did not participate in the voting. That's the distinction that we are failing to appreciate. It's a distinction that we are failing to appreciate. He didn't need to vote. He didn't need to vote. He added to the number to establish the fact that there were 138 members in the House. That is what we fail to appreciate because it's beyond you. Mr. Speaker, that is it. So once you have the 138 members in the House, and for a particular matter, even 70 of the 138 vote for it, the motion is carried. I can't appreciate why people can't even understand this, because it's beyond you. It's beyond you. You can't even appreciate this, Mr. Speaker. So that is the purpose. So, Mr. Speaker, I respectfully want to submit that all this exercise is an exercise in futility. It's a prodigal waste of the time of this House. And Mr. Speaker, I invite you to make a ruling on this matter to save this House further embarrassment. Mr. Speaker, thank you very much.
Heard anything here today which was not discussed yesterday. All the arguments that have been made were practically the arguments and the issues raised and discussed and contained in my ruling yesterday. There are a few matters though which I wish to clarify. First, it must be clear that a deputy speaker is not a speaker. Indeed, Article 96(1) Article 96(1) of the Constitution says, and I quote, "There shall be 2 deputy speakers of Parliament, who shall be elected by members of Parliament from among members of Parliament." And to contrast that with Mr. Speaker is not a member of Parliament. I am a member of Parliament. The Honorable Second Deputy Speaker is a member of Parliament, and our role is to assist the Speaker in managing this House. So, any attempt, any attempt to read, I'm not a member, if you don't keep quiet, I will be forced to ask you to leave. Any attempt to read and interpret the Constitution of Mr. Speaker to include the deputy speakers is a misreading and a misapplication of the Constitution. But when Mr. Speaker is not available, either of us will preside on the House. So can any other member, if necessary. Any other member can be elected by the House to preside. That member does not lose his right to be a member of the House. That is what our standing order says. Other members, when it comes to the question of voting, it is very clear. Anytime any of the deputy speakers or any other member elected to preside is in the chair, that member does not vote. That has never been in dispute. Anytime a member is presiding, either a deputy speaker or a member who by necessity is elected from among members to preside, that person does not vote.
He's debating. We are debating.
Who was that?
Shut up!
You should shut up, brother. Who was that? And the shall find that person and walk him out. Please, sit down.
Sit down. Speaker, rule quickly.
Honourable members, I'll continue with the ruling. The debate on Article 102 and 104 has been made, and it is not new. I was here on this side of the House when the matter relating which the Honorable Abu Janapo referred to and repeated by Mr. Speaker was made. The first ruling was made by Honorable Martin Odro, the then First Deputy Speaker. It's related to the Bank of Ghana Act, in which we had voted. The members in the minority were more than the members in the majority. But when you add the two together, it did not add to 1/2 of the members. And so the presiding Deputy Speaker then said that vote is invalid. Those on the minority challenged it. But when Mr. Speaker, Honorable Doe Ajaho came, he explained that, and he referred to the constitutional provision to justify that unless 50% or more were in the House, the vote was invalid. That has been stated and over again. But members refer to, the applicants refer to Article 104 and say that unless otherwise provided. Yes, let's go to Article 104. Article 104, it says voting in Parliament. It should be differentiated from 102, which says quorum in Parliament. 102 says quorum in Parliament. 104 says voting in Parliament. And that is the interpretation given by the Honorable Doe Ajaho, Right Honorable Doe Ajaho. So the clear distinction has been set out and it is on record in this House. Again, when members argue that except otherwise provided in the Constitution, it is clear that it is provided for in Article 2912, where it is required that a decision be made by 2/3 of members. It doesn't mean that we should go to the quorum for. So, honorable members, let me put on record that I am a member of Parliament. I was counted to make the quorum, and I
suspended in this house.
But
what are you doing? You don't rule on it. We have to take a decision.
I did not vote.
Tell me in the standard what is
therefore the application.
He cannot rule. He cannot rule on an motion that is before the house. No. How can he rule on a motion? He cannot rule on the motion before the house. How can he rule? So as the standard.
Honourable members, sitting is suspended for 1 hour.
You are not a speaker. You are not a speaker.
ungovernable. Continue. You are ungovernable and your ego is too much. Your ego. You are ungovernable and you can't control your ego. Has a long way to go. I must stand to stay.
help us to will and might forevermore, and help us to resist offenses with all our and might forevermore. We now have a speaker. We now have a speaker. Speakerless parliament. Speakerless parliament. Speakerless parliament. Someone who's serving you, someone who's serving you, yes, and now say, oh, my food, someone who's serving you, someone who's serving you, who is that? Yes, and now say, oh, my food, I don't see. Naraya Sassini, and I brought you to my own. Hosanna, Nanum Shubi, Yadabo, as a long way to go, but I can't to stay.
instructed the first deputy speaker, who was in the chair, to put a question on the motion that was so moved by me and seconded by Donna Blayarga, but he chose to give a ruling. We intend to question his ruling on that matter and to insist that he puts a question on the motion and to remind the majority that majority is members present here and voting in this chamber, not any imagined numbers sitting somewhere or elsewhere. Mr. Speaker, you may now adjourn us. Thank you.
Honorable member.